expensive. Time is too expensive. Time is too expensive.
One of the things that I noticed that seems to run through the people that I know who have been successful, and this would be in politics and business, is they have an amazing intellectual curiosity about just about everything. They're not unidimensional. They're happy to discuss just about everything, and they usually have an opinion about just about everything. They can explain exactly why they think a certain way, come up with evidence to support it. They have an intellectual curiosity that is sort of contagious, and people who encounter them are sort of taken with that ability, but they all end up the same place, which is being very successful and being acknowledged for their success.
And I would concur with that. In my experiences, I've noticed that there's a passionate curiosity that successful people have, but they also seem to have this genuine enjoyment for what they do. The person who I think is most successful in terms of clients that I've had in the music business is a Cori Jacobs, and we knew each other when we were teenagers too, which makes the relationship very special and has very deep roots. His passion never diminished, and he just has always had an enjoyment for what he does. It doesn't matter about the money. It doesn't matter about the situation. Now he's in Japan somewhere being the musical director for Bobby Womack. Whether it's Bobby Womack, Lauryn Hill, George Clinton, it doesn't really matter. The thing is, he enjoys doing music. And I think to his benefit is that he never got caught up in all of the other sensationalistic aspects of music. He's always focused on the enjoyment of doing what he does, which is playing music, being a musician, and then owning the responsibility of being a music director. From that perspective, the passion and curiosity, he's always learning new styles, like he's doing a lot of dubstep now. Whatever is out there and people have a demand for, as a producer, he wants to provide it. And so he has this curiosity to learn it, to know it, so that he can offer it in his repertoire. So he has that curiosity, but he has that enjoyment.
Del, the Funky Homosapien, is a good example of that. Music to him is like breathing. He has to do it all the time. It's clear that it's not for money, because that's pretty far down on the list in terms of what motivates him. What does motivate him is learning something more about the whole field of music, not just being a rapper, not just being a producer, but he goes farther into it, such as the theory of music, such as learning the newest software that's available to musicians to create recordings, to engineer, to produce tracks. When he's on tour sometimes in Europe, he'll go to the head office of the latest, software manufacturers that have musical software and just sit down and they'll show him the latest thing. So he's really, really steeped in it. When he's home, if you knock on the door and he doesn't answer, it's because he's listening to music. I mean, you can count on it.
Cori, he knows his purpose and he knows what his goals are. And his real goal is to be involved in music as much as possible. So he doesn't want anything to do with the business side of it. He's hands off because he knows that somebody else can be hands on. It seems like Dale's the same way.
He doesn't really want to involve himself in the business side of music. He's quite comfortable letting me and other people do that and sort of relate to him as necessary and allow him to completely immerse himself in the thing that he
And Cori's the
loves.
exact same way. That attitude really enables him to maintain his passion for what he does. And that's what I appreciate about Cori. He's just a genuinely musical person. I've been around people that pursued music, wanted to do it as a profession, people who like music, but people who are genuinely musical to where they have to do music, they have to play. They much rather play than talk. Cori's one of those people. I feel like Dale's the same way.
That's true. Yeah. Absolutely true. Be interesting seeing a conversation between two people who would rather play than talk.
That drive that Cori has over the years, and it seems like Dale has the same type of drive. So he's definitely one of the most successful people that I've worked with musically. And he also has the strongest drive.
You have to treat each situation that comes along as if this could be it. This could be that one thing that you do that has a huge impact. Yeah. And it's sort of fun because you just have to approach everything in the same way, and then in hindsight, you get a chance to look back and say, wow, it's a good thing I did that. I remember there was a situation with Del where he had been asked by a guy that was pretty well known with another group, but he was starting a new group. He needed a rapper. He was working with a producer here in the Bay Area. And it was a small situation, and so we worked without terms for Del's participation. And then the contracts came from London because this was a European-based act. And they eliminated any publishing rights and any record royalties for Del's participation on the record. Wow. And he was the only vocalist. And they were going to actually pay him a very modest fee for his vocal participation as a side artist. I caught it immediately, and I talked to the manager. I said, this makes no sense. So I went back and said, well, we have to have his publishing credit. We wrote 50% of the song, and we need a record royalty for his performance as a vocalist, not just a buyout. Well, I would have done that anyway, but it turned out that was the biggest record of his entire career so far. It's sold millions of copies. It was the Gorillaz track, Clint Eastwood. You know, when you do that and you see hundreds and thousands of dollars coming as a result of this one thing that you did, that if you hadn't caught it, it wouldn't have been paid, then you know that's why you get up every day and work for someone as hard as you can, because you hope to be able to do that as much as possible. When you're passionate about what you do, getting up is easy because you can't wait to see what you're going to do next.
So much of my mentoring, coaching, consulting, and even education has come through some shrewd advice that you gave me many years ago. You don't even remember this. This is way back in the day when I was doing workshops at the Alice Art Center, and I invited you to speak. And I was like, Michael Ashburne, he's the man, but I'm still gonna invite him to come speak with me. And you said, yeah, because you're cool like that. Afterwards, and I was talking about all the things I wanted to present and how to make it better, and then you said something to me that changed everything. And that one thing is this: people don't want to know everything. People remember philosophy and principle. Stick with philosophy and principle. And that has been something that I've remembered, and I share that with people even when I'm designing the curriculum for my class at San Francisco State, when I'm doing a lecture, and whenever I'm doing coaching or consulting. I always start with principle and philosophy and leave space for them to bring their curiosity to the table and then feed that as they present it to me. So because of you, I've had a lot of success as a consulting and coach dealing with principle and philosophy.
Thank you for the credit, and I will say that I wish I could remember that moment. As you know, communication is a two-way street, and I guess all I can say is, even if I didn't say it as artfully as you said it, I'm glad that you got. I'm glad that you got the message. Right? I'm glad you remember that way. You don't know what events are going to come at you, but having a good, strong personal philosophy is a key to satisfaction.
I think philosophy is also another area where people can connect on. Sports teams have a particular philosophy, and if you're a player and that particular philosophy does not jive with your skill set or your mentality or your attitude, it's not going to work for you. A lot of the times people overlook that. They don't look at the compatibility between philosophies.
One has to examine your life in the context of not necessarily what it is today, but what could it be tomorrow? Do I dare reinvent myself? And I think this is sort of an inquiry that a lot of people have who are closet artists. You know, they have this desire to be an artist, but they don't think they can make money or enough money to support themselves. Do you just keep that as a hobby? You know, it takes a certain amount of courage to abandon an area of work that's providing for your needs to go out and do something different that may be more inspiring, but may have a very risky and completely unpredictable income stream no matter what you do. When you look at entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, they usually fail about 3 times on average before they actually have a successful business. So failure is actually part of the growth cycle. And what failure shows is that you actually tried to do something and you got a result. It wasn't the result that you were hoping for, but you did get a result. As opposed to the person that's sitting on their couch in the living room watching TV, watching the sports, and they're not going to get a result, at least as far as that dream that they had, that they are thinking about embarking on.
And they're not going to get the lessons.
And the lessons that you learn in failure can be used to avoid failure next time. And if they do take a risk and they are successful, they are going to look back at that day as one of the best things that they ever did.
The first thing I tell people is that you can't steal second base when your foot is on first. I always make it a point to let people know that you have to take some risk. Going into business for yourself in any realm is risky. When you're an artist, the reality is you're an independent contractor, unless you're setting up an entertainment organization, and then even so, you're a business owner. So the risk is unavoidable. Music artists and artists in general, they create the art, but they don't think about the commerce. And so maybe sometimes what you want to do, you might be a singer, you need to redeploy your talent. Maybe you're not going to do Broadway. Maybe you're not going to get a record deal. But maybe what you are going to do is to be someone who lends your voice to the next Pixar film, and they're trying to find an animated character who has a vocal ability that your vocals are perfect for. Instead of being a dancer, maybe you're not going to be on America's Best Dance Crew. But maybe what you are going to do is to be somebody who puts together dance routine for a lot of up-and-coming acts who need people to dance behind them and create choreography for them so that they can create better performances for the shows that they have. So thinking about very innovative ways to cross that threshold into getting paid for what they love to do.
Just seeing the results that you get with the people that you work with, how they can grow based upon the help that you provide at critical points in their career. When I first met Ice Cube, he was a member of NWA. They were at that point where they were not a happy group. To put it mildly, there was conflict. And I was able to look at his situation, identify that there was defects in his contractual relations with Eazy-E, and therefore I was able to extricate him from that and sign a deal with Priority Records, which was his first solo deal, and launch him as a solo artist, which he's still reaping the benefits of today. So when you have those kinds of things in your past to look at, and I can say the same thing about Richard Pryor and Roberta Flack and all the others that I've worked with, there have been things that I've done that have been really important at various times.
Absolutely. My legacy actually satisfies the needs and fulfills the desires of the people that I make contributions to. So it may not be something in terms of from an egocentric perspective, like I can look back at this film or look at this body of works. But the fact is that people who go forth with the education that you provide them with, and they do something constructive and positive with their lives, there's this domino effect that you have with your legacy. It intertwines and interconnects with all the things that they do. And I get really excited about that. So that's really my legacy. If I stop breathing, at any given time, I always tell people that I've lived a fantastic life.
I like the way we talk because you start it and I finish it.
Yeah, there you go. We'll work it out. That'll be our modus operandi.
You know that you and I don't always agree, but even when we disagree, it's fun.
That you can't steal second base when your foot is on first. Okay, so you have to make a sacrifice.
It took me a minute to get that, but I think I got it.